Welcome back, eighth graders. So we're still in this process in the early stages of narrative writing. And so I want you all to look at Google Classroom and I'll show you where we're going to be working from. We're still working on Module 2. The last time that we met, you were working on this slideshow, Module 2, and you did a brainstorming activity. So you should have this all filled in and you're just kind of picking your brain as to what you could possibly write about. And remember, I did tell you too that if you needed to check out that quilt for some other ideas, I posted that on Google Classroom as well on the stream. But right now we're working on this Module 2 Google Slides. And you're going to be working today on the story arc. Okay, so I'm going to share with you another video that will kind of take you through this whole idea of the purpose of the story arc and what it's all about. And then you should know what your task is by the end of this video.
We're moving right along into lesson 3 for narrative writing. And here we will be focusing on the story arc. So stories are often going to follow a very predictable pattern. And that's what you see in front of you is this personal narrative story arc. And so they will begin with an exposition. And this is where the characters are introduced, the setting of the story is described, and the main problem or conflict is identified. Following the exposition, we have the rising action, and this is where suspense builds and the problem becomes more complicated. The climax, or the turning point in the story, is next, and this is typically the most exciting part of the story, and that is why you will see it at the top of this story arc. Well, then the falling action follows the climax, and these are the description of events that lead to a resolution or the ending of the story, which means the resolution follows that, and that is the end of the story, right? This is the part that describes the outcome or how things work out for the characters. So let's actually go ahead and look at an example of a story arc for a story that we are already familiar with, which is The Three Little Pigs. So the exposition for The Three Little Pigs would be when the three little pigs leave home for the first time. So that's the exposition of this particular story. Well, the rising action would be when the three pigs each build their own homes out of either straw, sticks, or bricks, and then the big bad wolf blows their houses down, right? Except for the third little pig's house. That house wasn't blown down. And the rising action continues when the wolf tries to trick the third pig into leaving his home. Following that is the climax of the story, and that's when the wolf jumps down the third little pig's chimney. And the falling action is when the wolf falls into a boiling pot of water on the third pig's stove. And then the resolution of this entire story is that the third little pig boils the wolf up, and that is the end of the big bad wolf. Nice little children's story there. And so now that you've selected your narrative topic, we've reviewed a typical story arc, you're going to use the blank story arc provided to complete your own storyline for your narrative. So here you'll see the print version on the left and the digital version on the right. They both have the same exact information on them. So you'll complete this personal narrative story arc, and you'll use this to really make sure that you include all of the different elements included in the storyline. So you have all of those for your narrative. So if you need to look back at the definitions for each element in the story arc, that's going to be a great, starting point to help you best complete this activity. So by briefly outlining and organizing your narrative ahead of time, your writing is going to be a lot more focused and is less likely to include unnecessary details. So I want you to take your time right now to outline your narrative and make sure that you don't move into the next lesson until this particular activity is completed.
Okay, so eighth graders, you're going to complete this story arc. But before you do that, you need to go back to your brainstorming page on that front side and decide, are you going to write about one of your ideas for that was exciting, scary, sad, frustrating, happy, or funny. And you want to choose one of those ideas that you really think you can tell the best story. So now is your time to narrow your topic down to one of those ideas. And once you have that figured out, you're thinking through the different parts of this. And like the video said, if you need to go back to your definitions, you have all of those definitions for you. When you get to the box where it says point of view, don't worry about point of view yet. That is a section on your graphic organizer where you're going to leave blank. So it looks like this. So you're going to fill out the exposition, you're going to fill out the rising action, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blanks here. It doesn't mean you have to have 5. You might need more. Fill this out as best as you can. This rising action are those events that add to the excitement of the story. The climax is where it's the highest point of conflict. And then you've got your falling action. How this is kind of the beginning of the end of the story. And then a resolution. You want a good, satisfying ending for your story. So this step really kind of forces you to think through all the components that are going to be required for when you actually write your story. So good luck. Let's see what you can get done. This entire thing, minus this box right here, the point of view, should be completed by our next class period.